Okay, so let's get into this. Today, I'm gonna be reacting to a video I saw online the other day. So this topic's gonna be about a feminist movement, I'd assume, as it's women complaining about an all-boys team winning against an all-girls team. But the thing that surprises me is feminism is for equality. So, I don't know, let's see what's this video about, and I'll give my input on it as we carry on.
An all-boys netball team is allowed to compete against an all-girls team for the state title. Now, the all-boys team wins every match, running up huge score lines, including a 30-goal victory in the grand final. All the while, parents watch on, they're angry, but they're powerless from the sidelines. Now, it all sounds like a bit of fiction, doesn't it? A Hollywood movie. That's exactly what happened at the Queensland netball titles earlier this week, where the all-male Queensland Suns blitzed their all-female competitors to be crowned the Queensland under-18 state champions.
Okay, now I see absolutely nothing wrong with this. In the circumstance that I would think this would happen is if there was no male league, which I guess we'll find out later. If there's a male league, this is incredibly incorrect. But if there's no male netball league and it's about inclusion, trying to, I don't know, put men in with women just for the aspect of letting them play, it makes 100% sense to me. Because honestly, it's equal. It's an equal opportunity. If both genders are equal, which is what I hear a lot, then why when a men's team wins, is it considered outrageous, but they're considered equal? Anyways, that's just some input real quick. Let's carry on with this.
That's been labelled crazy and unfair. But Netball Queensland is refusing to apologise. Her reaction, I want to bring co-founder of Save Women's Sport Australasia, Catherine Deves. Catherine, you may have been a netballer in your day. I was. I played mixed netball, but I don't know if I'd like to be in a team of women going up against a team of athletic men. Who in their right mind thought this was okay?
Well, look, I was a field hockey player, but what I'd like to say is that when Netball Australia says this is all about inclusion...
Okay, so they have said it's about inclusion, so the takeaway from here is there's no men's team, which means it is right for them to allow the boys to play in the women's league, which is what I'm assuming this is about. So in that case, complaining about it is completely morally incorrect, because you want everyone to have the same chance, the same aspect, and be able to play. So what I think another way what they could have done maybe is by taking out the boys and spreading them out throughout different teams. But at the same time, Queensland is a big area, which in a massive country like Australia, it makes sense that they can't split it all between the teams, because it's probably teams from different areas of Queensland. So yeah, that's just some input real quick.
Who's being included here? Because it's certainly not the women and girls.
Who's being included here? Really simple to understand. It is men. Men are being included in the sport. You want inclusion for women in men's sports, aka women's soccer. I personally have played soccer with women before. I think it's completely okay and it's completely fair, because if you want both genders to be considered equal, then you have to both give them the equal opportunity to play. Simply, that's how it should be. And if you don't like it both ways, then you can't play both victim and supremacist. If you don't want boys in your league, then no girls should be in men's sports. That's simply the way I see it. It's equal. If you don't want equality, that's okay, but then you can't have one side.
They're being excluded. They're being expected to...
How are women being excluded? This is a women's league, if I am not correct, which basically states it's a league only for women, which necessarily it's not right now because there is a men's team. That's only so that they get to be included. So if you say women are not being included when the ones not being included in this case is men because they don't have their own league to play in, then you are simply incorrect and a hypocrite. Let's carry on.
Yet again sacrifice their sports to make sure that men and boys feel included, and
sacrifice their sports. So what you're saying here is netball's a gendered sport. You're implying that only netball should be played by women. It's a gendered sport. Therefore, in that case, I could say the same thing and say soccer's a gendered sport. Therefore, all women should get out, but that would also be morally incorrect. If you can see where I'm coming from this, then you'll get basically the gist of the rest of the video.
Boys feel good about themselves. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous, and I'm not surprised that the parents are absolutely furious about this, and I am sure that if the girls were asked privately, they would also be very unhappy with what's happening here.
Obviously, they'll be unhappy. They've just lost. Anyone in their right mind who's lost a competition that they've trained for would be unhappy or sad, because you've worked hard for something that you didn't achieve. Doesn't mean they get the right to say they're better, because clearly they're not. The best team won here, which in this case was the all-balls team. So, I mean, can't have it both ways.
Yeah, you're referring to a statement by the Netball Queensland CEO, Catherine Clark. I'll put it up on the screen for people. She said, "We stand by the decision to choose inclusion over exclusion. Let's judge the decision in 12 months' time and see how many boys and men's team we have, because if we can't, you can't be it if you go, sorry?
If you can't see it, you can't be it." Okay, now I 100% agree with this lady right here. If she's a lady, I don't know her gender to be exact, but I'm gonna go off the assumption that she is a female. Now, I 100% agree with her. It's about inclusion, not about exclusion. Now, if you wanted to exclude what you would do to exclude people, for example, if you're playing rugby, okay, and girls want to play rugby too, if there's not enough girls to make up their own league, then something the girls will have to play in the boys' league, which you could say is unfair. You could say it's bias, because it doesn't give them an equal opportunity to the men. But it's the same case here. Netball is a predominantly female sport. Therefore, the women should be better than it if they've trained much longer than the boys, which in this case they have. Therefore, this is fair. That's just how it's seen in my eyes, at least. If you have any debates about this, you can repeat it in the comments, but yeah.
You can't see it if you can't be it. Now, I've no issue if there's a male competition, but why would you have a state competition that's predominantly always been women and suddenly bring the blokes in and have the blokes win the grand final?
Predominantly always been women, this is what I just said. This is about inclusion, okay? So if you have a problem with inclusion, then you should have a problem with inclusion in general, not just when men get included in women's sports. So going back to what I said earlier, if you have the same mindset, then you should say that women don't deserve the same rights as men. You should say men don't deserve the same rights as women, because that's exclusion, which is what you're advocating right here, okay? And if you disagree with me, then you're not getting the point of what you're trying to say at all. What you're saying is completely unjust, and you have no record of thought in your brain to understand and compensate for what you've just said.
30 goals to the women's team. That doesn't seem fair to me.
No, when we watch women's sports, we want to see the best women and girls that the world has to offer. We don't want to see men and boys taking up space on the netball court.
Okay, look how happy those men are to win though. Like, I know you're gonna disagree with me here probably, but I don't know. I feel like the only people complaining are the people that lost, which in this case is the women. If the women won, there would be no problem. I mean, what would the issue be then? Men won't complain because they've been given an equal opportunity, so...
Or on the podium, and frankly, I'd like to say to these boys, they should have forfeited.
Actually, ma'am, they shouldn't have forfeited. What you have just said here is men that have trained and prepared themselves for competition, nonetheless an equal competition, should forfeit just because of the fact of their gender. Doesn't that sound slightly sexist to you? And if it doesn't, then there's something wrong with you. If you want equality, then this is equality. You can't be hypocritical. You can't have a victim mentality and then want to play like you're better and bigger. That's not how this works.
I mean, if they wanted to play netball, they should have done what women and girls have always historically done. Over the years and decades and centuries of fighting for equality, for access to sporting opportunities, and we've gotten out there, we've done the recruiting, we've done the fundraising, we've built our own leagues, and here you have these boys going, oh, I want to be included, so I'm just going to jump on in with the women.
You've just said, want to be included. Therefore, you agree with the statement that it is about inclusion, not exclusion, which is what you didn't agree with earlier. Therefore, you're being hypocritical to yourself. Now you've just made a lapse in your own very own judgment, actually, which is, it shows me something about your mentality right now. Now you want to be playing a victim, but you realize that you can't in this situation because the men that are getting the hate for winning, let alone practicing, you don't understand the mentality you are currently in, because it's not a victim mentality, which is probably what you're used to. You're just mad. You're mad that the better team won, and that's incorrect.
And I don't care about their right to fair competition, don't care about their right to safety. I'm just going to play.
Their right to fair competition. This is fair competition. If both genders are equal, then this is considered fair. And their right to safety. What does it have to do with genders and safety? Now, you can say men are naturally more aggressive, or are naturally bigger, naturally better. Well, I 100% agree with that statement, but these same people have said equal rights. Men and women are equal. These people are the same. So now this is fair when it comes to the circumstance of you saying that they're equal. But now you're understanding the lapse in your judgment previously, which is coming back to bite you.
So yet again, we're seeing male entitlement, a lovely example of it here from Net.
How is it male entitlement? Please, I would like you to explain this. What other case have you seen of male entitlement? What point of this is male entitlement? They have practiced hard. They have trained hard. They have done well. They have exceeded even their own expectations. And you're saying it's entitlement. I wish there was a statement coming from this lady to explain what she's saying.
Australia.
Yeah, of course, women have fought for a long time in AFL to get a women's league up. I mean, if this sort of decision stands, you'd be putting men into the women's AFL league, even though there is already a men's AFL league, and you're taking the cause of women's sport back by decades. I want to go to another issue. The International Olympic Committee, they've delayed the release of the new transgender guidelines until next year due, they say, to an apparent conflicting opinion. But the IOC's Medical and Science Director, Dr. Richard Budgett, has reassured athletes that the guidelines will prioritise both inclusion and the avoidance of harm. How is it possible to do that if you're going to have biological male athletes again compete against women?
Well, you can't. Quite frankly, as I've said, when you have inclusion of men and boys, or men and boys with a special self-declared identity, women and girls lose out. Now, if you look at the...
In what case do women and girls lose out in this situation, okay? Tell me, these men, or they're not even meant to be called men, you've just called them men, which is what they are not defined as. They are defined as women currently. The transgender community has fought for their rights, and so has women. So now you're telling them, as stated earlier, they're entitled, and this is incorrect. And women are losing out. How are they losing out? If they want to compete for who they truly believe they are. Now that's morally incorrect.
Rules of sport, fair competition, player safety and welfare and inclusion, you cannot equally balance those. And what the IOC are doing here is they're yet again going to prioritise inclusion, and they're going to put the burden of giving up fair competition and safety on...
I would like to understand what she means by safety, because I simply don't. What in the situation causes harm? Netball isn't a physical sport. You can disagree with me here, but I personally have played netball, and I am a man. When I look at netball, and I compare it to other sports such as soccer, rugby, cricket, netball is a much less dangerous sport. I mean, you're not even allowed to run once you have the ball in your hand. That's the difference. And I don't understand what she means by safety in that situation, because how are you discluding safety? Is none of the safety precautions are changing. So yeah.
Women. So it's completely outrageous, and they should just face up to the fact that they are prioritising the inclusion of males and admit it instead.
They have admitted it. They said they're prioritising inclusion. They're not prioritising inclusion of males. They're prioritising it in general. Now, if they were prioritising the inclusion of males only, they would go and do a male-only league and kick all of you women out, take the infrastructure you've built to run the competitions. So, yeah.
Pretending that they're trying to be fair to everybody, because they're not.
They are trying to be fair to everyone. As you just said earlier, they're prioritising inclusion, which means they're giving everyone an equal opportunity. They're including everyone in the same aspect and giving them the same chance, same equal chance, I should state, to understand and represent their own communities. Now, if you take that away from the people, you're not prioritizing equality, you're not prioritizing fairness, you're not even prioritizing, in general, inclusion, which you stated as their goal. So tell me, what do you want then? What do you want? Do you want to be equal, or do you want equity? Because feminism is defined by equality. You want equality, which means that men and women are equal. Now, equity would be saying that there are some biological differences, and that's okay. Equity is explained simply by a statement that I like to put. If you have two men, or two people in general, standing and watching a soccer pitch from outside. One man's taller, another man's short. Now, equality would be making both the men the same height, so that they can see over. Equity, which is the more realistic point of view, which is what she thinks feminism is, which she thinks it should be, even though she's advocated previously for equality, is to give the shorter man a box to stand on, or a shorter man something to stand on so he can see over the ledge. That is equity, and that is not the definition of feminism. That is not equality. That's equity. There's a difference, a major difference. And you, ma'am, you do not understand this. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for tuning into the channel, and I hope to see you soon.